sometimes you'll have to construct a network for a project when you're given an activity table, and this is basically an activity table. It says we've got task A, B, C, D, E and F. These are their durations and these are their predecessors. Now, it actually seems, or you'd think that it would be quite simple to construct these networks or these graphs, but it's actually quite tricky. I'll show you my approach to doing these problems. All right, so first of all, we look for activities that don't have any predecessors up here, and these are usually the sort of what I call the start activities. So let's set a vertex down here, and what we'll do is we'll have A coming out of there. So we label the task A and its duration, and I tend not to put a vertice on there for reasons I'll explain a bit later on. Now we'll do the same with B. B comes out of there, and its duration is 3. Rather, it is 4. Okay, so now we've got task C. It goes for 8 minutes, hours, whatever this is, and its predecessor is A. So let's put a vertice at A and run a task C out of it. Let's direct that arrow, and we'll say that this is task C, and it goes for 8, or its duration is 8. Alright, now we need task D. Task D goes for 10, and its predecessors are both A and B. Okay, and now this is a bit tricky, because how do I get or indicate that D depends on both A and B? Now I might think that what I'll do here is I'll connect up B to this vertice here, and then I can run task D out of this vertice. But the only problem is, then if you look at task C, its predecessors are now A and B. And over here, according to the table, we can see that it only has one predecessor, A. So I'm not allowed to do this. So I'm going to undo that. And my other approach that I can use is this technique of using what we call a dummy connector. And a dummy connector is handy when I want to create some task dependency like this, when I want to sort of show that task D depends on both A and B finishing. No, whatever that is. So the way I do it is I'll put a vertice on B, and I'm going to indicate that we have this thing called task dependency by using this connector here, dummy connector. So we call this dummy, and it has 0 duration. Okay, now let's see what effect that has and why I did that. Okay, now I'm going to make task D. Okay, so let's run task D out of here, and that goes for 10. Now what we can see, if we look back to what immediately is before this edge here, we've got D and B, but D is of task 0. We trace that back, we go all the way back to A. So what I can say is the predecessors are definitely A and B for task D, so this definitely meets the requirements of this particular task. Alright, now let's do task E. Task E runs for 12, and its predecessors are also A and B. So let's run E out of there. It's 12, and let's direct the flow. Alright, one last one to go, and you think, oh yeah, we're close, but have a look at this diagram. It's still pretty chaotic. Alright, I've got task F goes for a duration of 4, and its predecessors are C and D. Alright, so I've got task D here, and I want task F to come out of both of those tasks, or that is, task F depends on C and D being finished. Okay. Now, again, I could think, oh, well, I'm going to set up a dummy task connecting these two up, but it's actually not important to do that in this case. Okay, and I'll show you why. So what we'll do is we'll actually connect up like this. So we've got the flow going around to here, and out of this task here, we'll have task F. Its duration is 4, Let's put a vertex in there. Let's see what's happened. Alright, now we've got C and D both as predecessors of F. Now, why didn't we use a dummy connector there when we did over here? Well, remember we had that problem when we tried to connect vertex B straight to C, as we created the task dependency, or C dependent on both A and B being completed, and C only depended on A. So this is why we don't need a dummy connector here, is that we've got F, and F depends on C and D, so we really are good to go. Alright, right at the end then, I've got this sort of E that's just hanging around, okay? And basically what we know is that nothing depends on that being completed. So this is actually a task that I'll link up right to the finish, okay? So we'll call this the finish now. We'll call this the start, and our network diagram is now completed, okay? Now, a lot of people like to redraw these to make them look nice and neat, but look, that'll definitely suffice as a good network diagram, one that's pretty easy to follow the flow of the edges there.